Hey, I'm your host, Anthony Tank Mansfield. Who with me this week is,
Kyle Sliney from Pop Rocket Creations.
and this is What You Into.
What you into? What you into?
All right, listener, Kyle and I were just having a very in-depth off-mic conversation about why didn't Avatar work better than it did, and that's a conversation
Very
we
in
should
depth.
keep.
Very in depth.
I mean, I like visually it was cool,
Yeah.
but you never like see anybody like cosplaying as Avatar. Like you never really see it
Yeah,
like
I
out in the
know.
world, like if you're at Comic Cons and shit.
The only thing is that Disney World added like a Pandora area
Yeah.
at their Animal Kingdom, but I'm like, do people like Avatar enough to make this an investment? But it is really cool when you go through it.
Yeah, it
It's one
looks
of those
cool.
things where we went through it when we were there a couple years ago, and we are like, this is neat. We don't care about the movie, but this looks cool. So there is that. But they could have made Star Wars land earlier.
They could have done a lot of different things.
Could have done a lot of different things.
They could have made a lot of shows.
But-
They could have created a lot of different stuff. They could have been
Yeah.
like you and been a creator. Listener, if you got to check out Kyle's stuff. Well, him and his wife Melissa own Pop Rocket, which is fucking awesome, and you can find them online at Pop Rocket. Oh shit! Hold on, Pop Rocket Creations on IG, and you can also find him on IG. I am Rocket Kyle is where you can find him at.
Yeah.
Dude, sorry about that. I did not have my notes up.
It's all right.
This is always
And
the
the
worst.
flow. It's in the flow.
The intro is always the worst part of the show. And listener, I'm sorry. I really wish I could do a thing where we could just jump right into the actual podcast, but I always have to do the introduction, and I'm still
intro.
dog shit at it. Over 100
Yeah.
episodes, I still fuck this up constantly.
Yeah, just hit that 30-second fast forward thing.
And boom, we're good.
You're past it.
So look, man, like, what do you got going on with Pop Rocket right now? Like, what are you guys making? What's happening?
Yeah, we've been gearing up for lots of fall stuff. One thing we always have wanted to do more of is more like lean into our weirder side even more. So we've been looking into more events. Like we're doing the Mothman Festival in September. So
Awesome.
we've been doing a lot of Mothman stuff and trying to do a few other cryptid related things. We're doing another thing in Covington actually called Cryptid Block Party, which is the beginning of September, like the second weekend of September. I think September 9th, if anybody lives in Covington or the area and wants to go. So we're pretty pumped about that because we're like, Cincinnati needs more like weird events. Because, there's people around that like this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we've got like Horror Hound that's huge here, but the rest of the year, there's not as many events. And Horror Hound's hard to get. We haven't gotten into it. We've done the Comic Expo. But at the Comic Expo, people are like, I just want to see the latest property that I'm into kind of thing,
Yeah, it really is that way. Well,
Yeah.
in the Comic Expo too is like a weird thing where like I know the guys that run it. I don't know them personally, but like I've heard through the grapevine that like they're really big on focusing on like Silver Age artists and Golden Age artists, which is kind of a bit different from like what you see from most Comic Cons
Yeah, that's
nowadays,
true.
which
Yeah.
is very much about like cosplay and like YouTube stuff and things like that. So it is an interesting con in that regard, but it does also bring in a bit of an older crowd than what you're used to.
Yeah, yeah. And even the younger crowd, they're there to buy like their like whatever anime they're into
Yeah.
or whatever. When you go to a Comic Expo, you're there looking for the, intellectual property that you're already invested into.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be looking for something new as well. But, we try and make things as original as we can, and if they do sort of play off of something else, it's still not like, it's more of like a tribute kind of thing.
It's a hard line to walk with that kind of
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
because it is that thing where it's like you do make money off of doing other properties because there is that built-in fan base already, but then there is that thing where it's like, well, yeah, but am I just another guy? It's like making Friday the 13th Jason
Yeah.
drawings.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
I'm the other guy here that's like drawing Captain America stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you're like, okay, well, what inspirations and influences can I like meld together into my own thing? So So, we're always trying to do something fun and original or see what types of things we can blend together. So a lot of it with over the last few years, like Cincinnati stuff sells well in Cincinnati.
Yes.
So we'll make Cincinnati related things.
People from Cincinnati fucking love Cincinnati.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never lived in a place where people are like, I love this place. So damn
people
much.
love to buy shirts that say Cincinnati on it.
Yeah.
So there's that. And actually, last year at the Cincinnati Comic Expo, we sold a lot of shirts that said Cincy on it.
Yes.
So that was good,
100%.
But it's just interesting going to different types of events to see what people are into, and we're very welcoming of the like weirder elements starting to come out at things. So this cryptid block party that's coming up, we're pumped for, and then Mothman Festival is in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It's a town of like 5,000, less than 5,000 people, I think, and we heard last year 35,000 people went to the festival.
Yeah.
So we're just really excited to get to go and vend for like 3 days.
Hell yeah.
Be super worn out afterwards, but it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be an awesome time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I want to hit two things here. So one, just what you're saying about, I wish Cincinnati would be a little weirder. And I really wish it would be, because I agree with you. It is a thing where, you mentioned it, like you see the success of like Horror Helm being here, like, what is it, like twice a year now? It's like once in the spring and the fall.
They moved the one in the fall back to Indianapolis, I think.
Okay.
I think there was just like something with the convention centers is what we heard.
Yeah. But like, and that always sells out. Like,
it's huge.
You can't get a table at it. Like the waiting list on tables at it is insane.
Yeah.
And then with like Blink happening once every 2 years and the massive turnout for that, I wish the city would have more art events, more weird stuff, because there's an appetite for it. People want it. Yeah. It's just they don't know how to get to it, or it's not happening, or and that becomes the thing where it's like, well, it involves money and yada yada yada.
Yeah, it's finding that right crowd to like build up that kind of scene, I think. So it's cool that some of the stuff's starting to bubble up. But yeah, Blink being every 2 years too, it's hard, because then it's just like, well, that's every 2 years.
Right.
And then you have to like jump in on it like 2 years in advance, probably.
Right.
We haven't applied, or we wanted to.
I applied last time. I got me and me and Andy and Jennifer Purdom from Fuse, we all applied together to do something, and it got rejected, and it was a bummer. Yeah, and it was a cool idea too. So what we did was we were able to get a hold of a projector, and it was like kind of like a mixer where you know how like musically you can like just keep layering tracks on top of each other. Mm-hmm. So what we were gonna do was we were gonna each draw on in Procreate. We were each gonna draw like different horns, teeth, eyeballs, noses, hair, like all this stuff. And then we were going to sync it to music. And so then like every 5 seconds, like a different element would come onto a human face. Okay. And just so and it would be constantly changing. So you'd be able to make like literally thousands of different combinations of like human faces with all sorts of different.
Was it going to be interactive? Or just like
we were talking about it.
Yeah.
But then it was like, we got to the point where we were like, well, what we're using costs a lot of money and we don't technically own it. So, because we were going to be borrowing from a third party, and it was like, okay, well, we'll do the mixing, but like, we could like get to it, we could do it to like the beat of the songs. And it was like, oh, that'd be awesome. And Blink was thank you. No, thank you.
Oh, wow. And Blink is so big. I almost feel like there's no room for rejection, because they need to fill space, especially we couldn't go to last year's, but we heard that everything is so far apart.
It was
that there needs to be something in the middle of everything. So
yeah,
but I guess that's a lot to coordinate, and they sort of did their thing with their the company they were working with.
Yeah. There was also that whole
all that like Fallout kind of stuff that happened. But
yes. Yes, the whole thing where like the original people were like, we're good.
Yeah.
And you know, the change of that. So
but yeah, Blink is the years we got to I guess it's only happened 3 times, right?
I think so.
The first 2 years were, especially the first year, like blew our minds.
Yeah, the first year was incredible. Yeah. It was mind bending.
Yeah. So we're like, this is in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
how cool is this?
Cool. Yeah, and like everything's lit up, and you know, watching like animations on top of murals and stuff. It was incredible.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So I hope that I don't know. I hope I don't want to wish bad things on, because I do want it to be successful. But I do worry about, you know, having seen like what happened to Midpoint when the guard changed and money came in, and now we don't have Midpoint, you know?
I know.
So it's like, all right, hopefully this works
Yeah.
because it is an event I like.
Midpoint Blink Festival.
Yes.
What was the other one that was happening? Gone now. Bunbury.
Bunbury.
Yeah. Midpoint Bunbury Blink.
Yeah. All well, two gone, one remaining.
Yeah.
We'll see. And then I also want to talk about the Mothman. The Mothman's great. I'm currently playing Fallout 76, which takes place in a alternate future irradiated United States. And Fallout 76 takes place in Appalachia in West Virginia, and the Mothman is in the game.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Man.
And the Mothman has a cult in the game.
Oh, wow.
So you get to find the cult of the Mothman.
Oh, that's cool. See, not being in the video game world anymore these days is like, you miss out on things like that, but that sounds cool. It's like, I wish I could just go in and like, not have that like 10 hours of training to get good at a game and have to enjoy it.
That is the problem, is the time commitment.
Yeah, the time commitment on games these days is like tough. So,
you got to invest sometimes.
But yeah, Mothman in a video game. And
Pretty
a popular
cool.
video game.
Pretty cool.
That's pretty sweet.
Pretty sweet.
That's cool. I can look up some stuff on YouTube. I think that's why kids like to just watch stuff on YouTube.
It does make it nice. I've actually done that with a few games now. There's a few different people that will do like run throughs of games. And so I found a guy who did a run through of The Last of Us Remastered when I was watching the HBO series. I went back and I watched him play the first game, but now with the updated graphics for the PS5. And I was like, fuck, man, this looks incredible. And also it was just enjoyable. Like he didn't, like he was actually really good at playing. So that felt good. Like he wasn't just getting like murked every time. Like he was fucking shit up.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's a good way to.
Or like when you can finally see someone beat Super Mario Brothers, because I never got to do that.
Oh yeah, there's definitely that out there. Speed runs, all that shit. Yeah. Well, speaking of stuff you can watch on YouTube, so you, my friend, are one of the biggest ska fans I know. I got a few ska friends. Shout out Stacy. Shout out Mace.
Ska.
But yeah, and I was into ska when I was like in high school. I was super into Less Than Jake and My Mighty Boss Tones. How'd you find ska, and how is you've kept on the ska train all these years?
Yeah, it's like when I go back, I think some of that influence probably comes from just growing up in the 90s, of course. And there was just ska and everything. Like, remember Kablam and Nickelodeon? The theme song was written by the Toasters. So I remember later on getting into the Toasters and being like, wait, this is the theme song from Kablam. And then I remember really wanting to find music I liked. I feel like I didn't like music for a long time. And I remember like lots of TV shows and stuff. There'd be like backing music. And I'm like, this is cool, but I don't know how to find it. I remember seeing Clueless and being like, whoa, that band is cool. I wish I knew how to find that, but I didn't know to like just watch the end credits and they'll tell you who the band was. Many years, not many years. So I remember seeing it. Clueless was probably when I was like 6th grade. 10th grade, I'd been into the Boss Tones for a few years. And then I rewatched Clueless and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this and being like, I wish I knew what this band was. And then in 10th grade, I'm watching Clueless and I'm like, it was the Boss Tones. It was meant to be. So,
which is a crazy thing to go back on now, is like watching movies and finding little things like that, where like the Boss Tones pop up in Clueless, Cannibal Corpse pops up in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Like, there's just like all this weird stuff where at the time they're just kind of a nondescript band that's just kind of in the movie in the background. And then you're like, oh shit, that's them.
Yeah. And then there's like Real Big Fish was in Basketball.
That was awesome.
And, like going back, probably like I remember buying Let's Face It by the Boss Tones on cassette. A little before that, I bought Tragic Kingdom, which isn't really a ska album, but no doubt being in the mainstream definitely opened up floodgates to ska. And so just getting in No Doubt and the Boss Tones and things like that. And then later on, like getting like Columbia House, getting scanned by Columbia House, but they sent me Real Big Fish. And like listening to that album and being like, oh, this is sweet. So I feel like right around that time was when I was like, oh, okay, I think this is called ska. And I'd be like picking up magazines here and there and reading about other bands. So I'd be getting into punk too, like early punk stuff, like early 90s, like pop punk. So Green Day and then Blink and Offspring, the big three of the 90s pop punk era, and just getting into those bands. And then when I got into like Blink and Real Big Fish, after being into all the other bands and finally figuring out, I think I know the name of this genre now, and then just sort of like diving in from there. There was a record store in my hometown called CD Jungle that was like the kind of thing where like when you're in like 9th, 10th grade, you're like, this is scary to go into because these people are way cooler than me.
Yeah, they know a lot about music. They're going to judge me.
Yeah, exactly. They're listening to like a bunch of like UK punk and stuff like that on the speakers in there, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. But going in there and looking at just the band shirts and being like, oh, this is cool. And then just, digging through like the cool thing about maybe my age is that, or when I was getting into ska was also around the time where it was starting to like die off in the mainstream maybe too. So I was able to find a lot of used ska albums in the used record bins
And grab them for cheap.
And being like, oh yeah, I've heard of this band. I'll pick this up. I'll pick it up. But like, I remember like the day I bought my first Suicide Machines album, and like, I still remember like hearing it for the first time being like, whoa, this is incredible.
Yes.
Things like that. And like Operation Ivy, getting into them and just seeing, we had this local band called the GC5 that was really, really good for being from Mansfield, Ohio. They ended up having one of their albums being sold at like Hot Topic at one point, but they were like a street punk oi band. So no ska influence, but I remember the first time I saw them coming home being like, I don't know what to do with myself now because I can't just listen to The Offspring anymore. I don't get the same level of energy as this like street punk. Like, I didn't know it was street punk at the time, but I was like, I need to find more music like this. And that's when it started getting into like Rancid and more like, just more like harder core, like punk rock type stuff.
Yeah.
And getting into like the Clash, like finding out, because like they were in my high school, so I could like talk to them. They're a couple years older than me. And I'd see the band shirts they were wearing. I'm like, okay, they like the Clash. They like Rancid. They like all these bands.
Yeah. And I think what you're describing is like a lot of times people refer to it as like the glacier of a genre.
Yeah.
Where like you come in on the top layer, which with pop punk and stuff was definitely like that Green Day, Rancid, Offspring, and then with ska as well, like no doubt. And then you kind of start piecing on the level where you're like, all right, well, beneath that, it's like at the time like Blink 182, and then same thing with like Real Big Fish, and it's like, oh, beneath that's like Suicide Machines, and you just keep like sprouting into like smaller and smaller subgenres and like finding stuff. And then also at the time, we've talked about this on the show before, but in the 90s, like with like limited internet access, instead, like you would figure out about bands through linear notes where like you would see what are the t-shirts that the bands are wearing, or like who are they thanking in the thank you notes and all that.
Or like
who
stuff. Are they touring with? Like, I think I bought a Pennywise album because I saw Offspring toured with them. So I was like, okay, they must be cool. Just like stuff like that. You'd like get into these bands just because they're sort of they got the what's the word, like they're backed by somebody else.
Stamp of approval.
You know, that stamp of approval.
Yeah,
like, and sometimes it works for your taste, sometimes it doesn't. But most times in that era, especially, I think, because a lot of bands would like tour with similar bands.
Yes. Well, and it was also a thing too, where like you didn't have what you have today, where you weren't as able to easily take a chance on music, because today if you hear something, you can just immediately go to Spotify and be like, all right, I'm gonna check it out and see what's happening. But back then it was like, well, you have to pay for this, or maybe your record store doesn't have this. Now you have to like do a mail order to get this. And there was, and then that would turn into a whole thing where then you would like start getting like mini catalogs and shit sent to your house.
Or there's bands that I didn't get into that I should have just because I never ran across their album, Right. Like, I haven't gotten as into the Descendants as a lot of other people, simply because growing up I never came across their albums. So it's just like, so I didn't have that like entry level thing diverging into that direction. And that's one where I'm like, every now and then I go back and listen to them and I'm like, oh yeah, they're great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
But there's a lot of things like that where it's just like I happened upon a Suicide Machines album for like $1 one day, and then I'm like, whoa, this like changed my life. So, or like, I'm like, I've heard this sellout song on MTV. I'll order it in my Columbia House 12 albums for $12.
A penny or whatever it was back then.
And that one, even I remember I got it, and I feel like I listened to it, and I was like, it's all right. But then like a year later, listening to it again and being like, whoa, why haven't I been listening to this for the last year? Because sometimes you'd get like a bunch of albums for cheap out of the used bin or from mail order or something. And so something would sort of slip through the cracks because you're like, well, I haven't found especially at that age, I hadn't found my niche quite yet. So maybe I was listening to too much Oasis or something. Then I was like, whoa, never mind. I'll listen to this other stuff. But yeah, so it's just like a cool time to like find your way and like really research into things. And you still can, but even with newer stuff now, it's easier to listen to it and then sort of forget sometimes because you don't have that CD sitting next to you. Or, you might have it on record now, but you can't bring that in the car or whatever. So,
do you find yourself like searching for like new ska bands at this point? Because because the bands we're talking about right now, everything is kind of 90s and like early 2000s where it was like popping up. And now it seems like there's kind of, and it went dormant for a little bit, but what is old is new again. Like it seems like ska is starting to make a bit of a comeback. Yeah,
there's like a lot of really cool new bands. There's like this record label called Bad Time Records. You know them? They're kind of like the big one right now with a bunch of really good ska bands. Just ska. Like they just started a punk label like as a side label because they're like, oh, we want something that we can put out the bands we like that aren't just ska bands, but it's all types of ska too. Like there's like really heavy, hardcore, like metal type ska on there, but then also really like mod type ska. Two-tone era type stuff, or they have maybe some traditional style stuff on it, but yeah, it's like it's really interesting. They've got I think they put out there's like hyper pop that's popular these days. There's a dude that does stuff, and his name is Eichlers, I think.
Okay,
and he has like hyper ska, so it's really interesting because it's just like really poppy stuff, but it's ska.
Is it like super fast paced or
super fast paced? It almost could be like a video game level.
Okay.
Like I've heard other bands in this genre. It's like you'd go like listen to it at a club maybe in some levels of that style of music, or it'd be in a video game, or it's just really hyper fast paced stuff. But then for him, it's less on like the techno-y side, more on like the ska elements or having that ska backbeat kind of thing. I
do think we are at a point where like so much has been done, and especially like with younger musicians today and Gen Z, they've had so much access to so much music, and you're starting to see like a lot of different stuff get melded together that didn't happen before. And that's becoming like a whole interesting thing. I mean, I remember it's not as prominent as it was a few years ago, but like when the whole like emo rap thing started, and it was a big departure than what I was used to from hip hop. The hip hop I'm into is way more like East Coast backpack hip hop, Czarface, like story, like, metaphors and all that kind of shit. And then now there's like a bunch of stuff where it's like, whether it be like Lil Xan or Lil Peep or all these other guys are following the kind of like this goth subdivision of rap where it's like, I'm sad and I'm strung out on Xanax. And it's like, this is something I've not heard before, or like City Morgue, like, this is way different than hip hop that I'm used to. It's something strange and different. And I do think that is starting to happen now where like these things before that were very different fucking genres are now starting to collide together because people are like, well, I was brought up on Metallica and Real Big Fish. And it's like, okay, well, obviously, why not have some blast beats and some trombones?
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a lot of cool new bands, and then there's a lot of old bands that are still around. Like Mustard Plug's putting out a new album soon. But then there was just like this tour called the Bad Time Tour of all these bands. And so there's a band called Catbite, and they've kind of blown up from that scene. Kill Lincoln, which is one of the guys in that band started this label, and they're just kind of like what you'd think of for ska punk for a lot of those bands. But Catbite's a little more two-tony, a little more mod, like power pop ska type stuff. So kind of more like they sound like they could have been around since like late 70s, early 80s kind of sound.
Nice.
But then there's a whole range of like pop punk on that, or not punk, but like ska punk and but pop punk type stuff. Then there's like We Are the Union, which they have a really their earlier stuff is more Less Than Jake style, I would say. But now they sort of have moved on into their own sound. But then like Jay from Suicide Machines, he has Jay Navarro and the Traders. They're on that label now, and that's sort of his really kind of like punk rock two-tone style project. So there's a bunch of really cool bands. They just had a tour over the summer, and they're making a documentary about it and stuff like that. So I like backed that on Kickstarter. But they had a show in Cleveland that I couldn't get to, but I'm excited to see the documentary about all these bands that are sort of like started to bubble up again, and like how, because I think that, you know, in the last 5 or so years, especially since 2020, people wanted like, and maybe it's sort of like the revert, like similar type of thing that happened in the 90s. Like everybody got tired of like their sad, grungy music. People were tired of like sad 2020.
Yeah.
And so we're like, I want to feel good and listen to feel good music. And like, not all of the content is feel good, but the sound makes you feel good. And I think that's also what interested me in it too, is like, once you get into the lyrics, a lot of ska bands, it's like, it's really political, really social commentary. Like I remember in high school listening to the Specials being like, I don't know what they're talking about, because I don't know anything about politics in England.
Yeah.
But the music's good. And then but then that also opens you up to just like all these other, like just like wider world view.
Yeah,
so
the Specials are definitely one of those bands that to this day I still love. Like fucking Ghost Town, dude.
Yeah,
that song,
so good.
It's, you instantly know what it is the minute you put it on, and just it hits, and it's just like, and then the opening horns and everything is just incredible.
Yeah, so the beginning of Shaun of the Dead, I remember being like, yes,
solid way to open it up.
This movie's gonna be great.
Good way to open it up.
Yeah, it came on last night when Melissa and I were working on the haunted house keychain.
Nice, perfect for always perfect for the Halloween mix.
And she was like, yeah, this is good. This is good. This came on right now.
Yeah, no, this is perfect. This is exactly what should have happened.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's. Ska and I go way back. And some levels of swing in the 90s too, you know, that stuff was fun.
Yeah, no, and that was a thing that popped up for a minute as well. Like there was that weird like swing research. It was almost like it was ska had gone too far. It's like, look, we've taken it this far. Can we add in suits and stand up basses?
I still wonder like how all that transpired in some ways.
Yeah, no, that was like a weird time, because it was like that weird thing where that came out, and then it was the movie that has the guy who is now like the big director of Star Wars, Jon Favreau. And Swingers. Yeah, Swingers. Thank you.
Yeah.
And what's the other guy's name? That's super popular from Swingers. He was in
Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
So that was like their big breakout vehicle, and that had that ushered in that whole thing of like 50s bowler shirts were back. Baby, it's money. Everything's money. Your money, and it was this whole. And then there was a bunch of like swing band shit going on in that movie, and that kind of amplified that as well, because that was also a thing too at the same time where it was very much like a, hey, this is what's happening in LA kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was that whole vibe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because there was like a whole swing scene in LA that sprang up in that time. And because like Royal Crown Review, just being into them and knowing some of their history, it's like people were going to swing shows in like 1992. Yeah. Like that's cool because like it wasn't huge anywhere at that point. But in Swingers, I think the singer of Hepcat is one of the dudes
the dudes in
or one of they have two singers, but he's one of the dudes in there. And then he was also in that show Becker.
Oh, really?
If you remember that, he played the blind guy.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, so anytime I see him pop up, I'm like, dude, it's one of the dudes from Hepcat. That's awesome.
I love musicians pop up in TV shows, or basically anything. I'm a sucker for if a musician, a pro athlete, or a pro wrestler pops up in something that they shouldn't be in, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's that person.
Especially if they can act and they're not like super awkward, and you're like, I can tell you're just like reading something off a board. Yeah. But yeah,
there's this cool show I watch sometimes now. It's the second season that it's on Stars. It's called Heels. It's a television show about like a independent wrestling league in the South. But one person pops on the show a lot is CM Punk from WWE and now AEW. He's on there a bunch. And then Joey Porter, who was a former defensive end or linebacker for the Steelers. And it's super cool seeing these guys pop up as like, I know them as being like athletes, and then they're on this show. And I'm like, oh, cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. We've been seeing that advertised, but only like static ads. So we're always like, what is this show about?
Yeah.
Because it's always like a static ad, and then or like a 15-second promo that doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
And we're like, what's that?
That's like when I was trying to figure out what the fuck the bear was about. I'm like, what is this about?
yeah.
People
The
are like,
bear
it's
is
great.
so good.
Yeah, I know. And it took me a minute, and I was like, wait, what? And it's about a restaurant. I'm like, well, that doesn't.
I know. Like when it came out, I was like, is it about the girl from Game of Thrones? That's the bear.
Yeah. Like what's happening?
What's the bear?
What's happening?
The bear's great. And it refuses on the soundtrack a lot.
Constantly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, they're constantly. Which I thought that was a weird choice, but that not Refuse, but I did think it was weird that with that show they would constantly replay songs.
Yeah.
Like Refuse popped up a bunch, Wilco popped up a bunch, which that makes sense because they're from Chicago.
Yeah. And Refuse, though, is always the same song.
Yeah,
I don't know if they ever played any other Refuse songs.
No, it's always summer. It's not Summer Holiday versus Punk Routine.
yeah.
It's the other one. It's
New Noise.
Yeah, New Noise. Yeah, it's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, New Noise.
Yeah, it's almost like they have someone's like very like year 2000 college playlist.
Yeah, I felt like I was like playing like Madden 2003.
Yeah.
Where I was like, all right, fuck yeah, dude, let's get hyped up. Like,
Yeah.
Refuse is on the soundtrack. This is awesome. Or I was like playing Burnout or something. Like, it was really weird where it was just constantly kept popping up. The worst offender of that I think is Secession, where they constantly play their theme song throughout the episode, and that drives me nuts.
We haven't seen that yet. We're always like, should we start this? Do we want to commit 5 seasons of time?
It's a lot. It's a lot. We got through the first season. We had to take a palate cleanser, so we're gonna come back into it. But we had to take a minute. I think next I think we're gonna jump back into Reservation Dogs next.
Oh yeah, we're excited. There's like 4 or 5 new shows that just started up
Yeah.
again that we're excited about. So
Yeah, listener,
yeah,
Reservation
welcome
Dogs.
to this podcast about TV shows and
TV and ska. Well, fuck. Let's do this.
yeah.
Let's get to the main. Let's get to the main portion today. Let's get to talking about this. So I told you before you came on the show, I was super stoked because this is a legit collection episode. And doing a podcast about hobbies and collections, I have way more hobbies than I get collections. So I was really thrilled that I got to have a collection episode. So let's start with this. Where does your Vans collection sit today? Do you have a number on how many of these things you have at this point?
No.
Okay, it's okay. Sign of a
I
good
kind of like
collection.
just stopped keeping track at one point just because so I'll like buy and sell sometimes. I haven't sold as much recently just because too busy. Like it's like work selling on eBay too sometimes, or all the other sites that pop up now. But yeah, so I just like I don't buy as many now either. But it's also like, well, why do I need to have the number in my head? Like at a certain point, I was like, well, I don't need to count things.
Yeah, it
I just like
it's fine.
do it for the enjoyment of it, and like enjoy learning about things and being exposed to new elements of the world through this one niche interest. So
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's put a pin on that then for the collection side of it.
Yeah.
How'd you get into it, man? Like, what started you on this path of Vans? Like, why Vans? Like, why not Nikes? Why not Yeezys? Like, Vans.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I kind of always was into shoes in some way, but I never really found my brand, And like in high school and middle school, I ran cross country. So I'd always be like looking through the East Bay catalogs all the time because everybody at school would be like really into all the new, like whatever the new basketball shoes were. But I was like, oh, I got to check out the running shoes. So I got really good at like knowing all the ins and outs of different running shoes and just like all the technology that went into that. But I also really just liked having a cool pair of shoes. Like I remember getting like really excited about getting my first pair of Sambas. Or like 7th grade, I got these like green suede Pumas. So I really just liked sort of like the basic shoes. And then there was a Family Dollar in my hometown that sold irregular Converse, like just Chuck Taylors. So I'd get all these like weird, ugly colors of those for $10 or less.
That was the move back in the day. You could totally like outfit like an entire wardrobe of Chucks. If you wanted to, because they came in every color. They were cheap as fuck. They were like, $10 to $20. You could easily always get the black low tops, black high tops, but then the whites were always available. And then if you could find a spot like what you're talking about, you could totally find reds, blues, yellows, greens.
Whatever colors you want.
They got all the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah, like I got all kinds of weird colors at this Family Dollar, and it's kind of weird because I never saw it at any other Family Dollar. There was just this one shelf that had irregular marked Chucks. And I'd be like, cool, I'll get whatever ugly color is there in my size whenever I went. So then I was like, oh, cool, I got a lot of Chucks in every color. But I always kind of wanted some Vans, but they were just like, I couldn't find them anywhere. In like the 90s in Mansfield, Ohio, they weren't selling Vans there.
Time out for a second.
Yeah.
I know you said Puma. Were you ever an Airwalks man?
I never had Airwalks. It was one
I never had
where,
Airwalks either.
like, I knew.
I had
like,
friends that had them.
Did my sister have them? I don't know. She got Converse 1-stars, which were like
I had 1-stars.
same level of Airwalks at that time. It was like you could get Airwalks or 1-stars.
Yeah,
And
like
she
the
was-
suede outside,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
kind of that same
exactly.
material you would find all the skate
Yep.
shoes made out of.
Yeah, so she had those, but I remember she was into Airwalks, so that's sort of how I like knew about them. My brother had some Airwalks. My younger brother did. So there's some of that in the family, I guess.
There were some Airwalks around, but okay. So then when did you happen upon Vans?
So then Vans, finally, you know the store Gadzooks?
Oh yeah, I remember Gadzooks.
Gadzooks had checkered Vans. So I was like, sweet, I can finally get some checkered Vans. Because, being an avid ska listener, I had to get some checkered Vans. So from there, just like, and then, you go to Warped Tour and buy some Vans. I think my second pair of Vans I bought was one of like the Warped Tour exclusives that I ended up getting online later, like that summer when they went on sale. Because I was like, I can't spend $60 on shoes at Warped Tour. How am I going to carry these around all day?
Right.
So or it might not have been $60. It might have been $50 or $45 in those days. But yeah, so it was like something where like, I'm not going to buy a pair of shoes at Warped Tour. I'll just order it online. So like later that summer, I got like my second pair was some Warped Tour exclusives. And then just like went from there being like, well, now I want one in every color, try out different styles, get all kinds of different colors. But they were still harder to come by. There was still like that thrill of the hunt kind of thing. So especially in the early 2000s, finding stuff online was like, is this site real?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it is interesting to talk about like kind of that advent of the internet stuff. Where like trying to do internet commerce in like the late 90s, early 2000s was a difficult thing because again, we had mail order and it was kind of akin to that still, but now it was online. But you had to have a credit card and stuff, and sometimes that wasn't easy to have depending on your age you were in.
Yeah, so it was just like one of those things where it was just exciting to see what was out there and finding deals, because at the time the chunky shoes were really in style in that era. So like DCs and things like that. But I just like the classic, more sleek styles of Vans, So I would just find those and be like, oh, sweet, these are like super cheap. It's a similar thing. Like, cool, I can get a bunch in different colors. And then I also would be going to lots of shows and tearing them up and being like, cool, they're getting really beat up. I never skated really much. I bought some skateboards here and there, but never was good at it. So that wasn't really as much of an element in the collecting. But yeah, I always like the wear and tear of them too. Like, especially going to shows or whatever, just seeing how I'd have like certain show shoes, and then like these are my dress Vans,
right? Exactly.
These are my good pairs.
That's totally I think that's any shoe collector. You definitely have to. That's definitely something as part of a shoe collection. Is these are for special nights. These are every day. You know, and you do kind of got to figure out what that is. Because I had that to this day with stuff in my collection where I'm like. If I'm going out for a Friday or Saturday night, then I'll wear like my neon green, like black light shoes with my wife. But my dailies are just like Air Maxes, Yeah,
exactly.
And,
your dailies. Yeah. And like the past few years, my dailies have just been standard checkerboard slip-ons again.
Yeah.
It's just kind of fun to, like, it feels good just to wear those on a regular basis again because once I started collecting, like, I'd still have a pair in my collection, but I wouldn't be wearing them as much. But now I have another pair, like, right by the front door. I think in 2020, I just was like, well, we're not going anywhere ever, so I might as well just have slip-ons for when I have to take, like, I'll just leave these by the door now when I'm taking out the trash or
just
we're going for a walk around the block or whatever.
100%.
And I think the other thing, I think that's what's fun with Vans and probably Chucks and things like that. I like the sort of like just the canvas, like leather, suede materials. Like with running shoes, even though I got really into learning about them, the wear and tear of them, like, I don't know. I like to see the wear and tear on Vans as they go. I feel like it tells a story. With running shoes, I feel like a lot of the newer materials don't tell as much of a story. I don't know. And that might happen with a lot of, like, new tech and things like that. I don't know. I just like to see that. I think denim collectors probably have a similar thing where they're like, oh, yeah, I like to see things age, the wabi-sabi effect.
That might be like a cloth thing because I know with me, like with my shoes, I try to keep my shit as clean as I can, and I try to keep it looking as good as possible. But that might be kind of the thing with Vans where it's like, well, it is it is a very like shoe. It's meant to be worn day to day. It's meant to
Yeah.
be used for skateboarding.
Yeah.
Like it is a very much a wear and tear thing. It's meant to
Yeah.
go to the beach with the
Yeah.
whole slip-ons thing. It's a very casual shoe.
Yeah.
Do you ever wear dress shoes?
Yeah. Well, I haven't had to in a long time. Like my wedding, I wore some dress shoes, but I switched to Vans for the reception.
Nice. So, perfect.
Things
move.
like that.
Yeah, yeah, like maybe weddings at this point, and then funerals. I'll pop some
Yeah.
dress shoes on, but you
Yeah.
better be somebody better be getting married or buried for me to be
Yeah.
getting some fucking dress
Yeah,
shoes.
like
on.
when Melissa and I were shooting weddings too. I would be like her second photographer, second shooter. And so we got some of those like really nice Cole Haan dress shoes that had like the Lunar Grand soles that they sort of like got from Nike. And those are like great for being on your feet for 12 hours for a wedding, you know?
Nice.
So, and they feel like a running shoe, but with like a thick leather, you know.
base to them.
Yeah.
looks good.
Instead of like,
That helps.
yeah, that definitely helps as opposed to wearing some dress shoe where it's like, this hurts.
I have a real hard time doing function, or sorry, I have a real hard time doing fashion over function.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm fashionable into the sense where like you're never going to see me walk out of the house wearing something mismatched. Like
Mm-hmm.
my, I'm either going to be wearing like all black and then I'll be popping color with like my hat or my shoes. Or, if I am wearing color, it's going to match between like what I'm wearing for my pants and what
Yeah.
I'm wearing for my shirt and whatnot. But the whole idea of like wearing something where I'm physically uncomfortable wearing it just for the sake of fashion,
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's no good. So
Yeah. Yeah.
if you can find a comfortable version of that, then sure.
Then go for
but
it.
Then go for it. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Or be like my wife and wear like a fucking romper to the 4th of July and then be like, oh, I got to pee in a porta potty. And I'm like, that seems
Yeah.
poor planning on your part.
Yeah.
Not doing
For
that.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So,
Yeah.
all right. Listener, don't tell wife I just buried her on this podcast. Okay. This might get cut out. I'm going to leave it in. Where do you think like Vans fits in pop culture? Because I feel like it's to me, it seems pretty Americana, but at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like a weird kind of underground Americana.
Yeah, because it's not like the same level as Chuck Taylor's, you know?
Yeah,
Like
it's
Chuck
not-
Taylor's, you'll see that, and like any Americana, you go to like a drive-in, and the illustrations on the wall are of people in Chuck Taylor's,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Levi's 501s,
Yeah.
wearing Chuck Taylors,
Yeah.
or you'll go to like a high school and you'll see like a picture on the wall from like the 1960
Yeah, the
regional
basketball
districts
team, yeah.
basketball team, and they're all wearing like
Yeah.
white Chucks, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, that's what you did at the time.
Yeah, but I think part of that too is we're in Ohio. Like
Yeah.
when I go out to California, it's like everybody's in Vans, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Like everybody on the street. But although actually the first time I do remember seeing a pair of Vans was one of my granny's friends went to a fish fry, and I remember she was wearing floral Vans, and my sister was like,
Nice.
she's wearing Vans. How cool. So that was like the first time I remember being like, that's a pair of Vans?
That is cool.
So, but yeah, that's a tangent there. But yeah, I feel like you go out to California or just out west, and it's a lot more prominent. So some of it might, especially like the original styles of Vans, like the deck shoe look, the Eras and the Authentics.
Yeah.
If you know the styles, like I'm wearing a pair of Eras right now. They got like the padded collar. That was an upgrade from the Authentic where there's no padded collar, but it's just a standard deck shoe look. So I think out there, that's like really infused into the culture. And like there's swap meets all the time that people will find vintage Vans at. Not as much now probably because it's more sought after, but there's stories of people finding whole batches of Made in USA Vans out there.
And it makes sense too, just for like, again, as a daily wear shoe where it's like, hey, we're going to the beach and you got slip-ons,
Yeah.
instead of wearing flip-flops, you can just
Yeah.
slide these on, slide them off. You're not going to get sand in your shoe, but you still got a good
Yeah, it's
grip.
more comfortable than,
Yeah.
at least for me, I don't like to wear flip-flops or any types of sandals, but slip-ons are great because you can just slide them on and off when you're at the beach. Not that I go to the beach often.
Right.
I wish. But yeah.
And they also just like became synonymous with skateboarding. And so
Yeah.
Vans were like the shoe before Nike and other people were like,
Yeah.
oh shit, this is the thing that we can make money off. Because that was always an interesting thing with skateboarding. And I've had this conversation in the past on on past episodes of people who are skateboarders where I'm like, do you see skateboarding as an art or a sport? And they are the two people interviewed were very much, Chris Rice and Ryan 500 from 500 Miles Memphis were both very much like, it's an art. And I'm like, but it's an X Games. It's a sport. And Tony Hawk's an athlete. And they're like, it's an art, so it's like a weird thing. And then Vans became like the shoe for that, where it was like, so it wasn't in a way where it was like Nike and Michael Jordan, or there was like commercials where people were like, wear these and you'll, get like a better kickflip or something.
Yeah. But
it was always synonymous with that culture.
Yeah. They got picked up by that culture. So that's part of the thing. Like, so when they started, Paul Van Doren, who started the company, he sort of learned how to make shoes, I think in Massachusetts or something like that. Moved out west and was like, I'm going to start my own thing, cut out the wholesale to stores and just sell them direct to customer. So by doing that, they're able to make a little more per shoe, but then also they could put a little more into the materials. They made the soles twice as thick as other companies were doing at the time. And that's part of why skateboarders picked up on them, because the soles were thicker and they would last longer and just offer more protection. Because when you're wearing a deck shoe, technically a deck shoe skateboarding, there's a lot that and skateboarding was totally different in that era too. But there was part of that street style starting to come in, and that's like those street teams were the ones that started picking up on it.
Bones Brigade and like all that kind of, and like Dogtown and all that stuff,
Z Boys and all that.
It is an interesting thing where like skateboarding was like finding this voice of like, again, where it was like, is it an art? Is it a sport? And then having a shoe that's like, well, this does work for this thing that you're doing, whether it is an art or a sport. This shoe is going to give you the protection that you need and the ability to do this thing.
Yeah. And the other thing with skateboarding was like, you could go to a Van store and buy one shoe. So you're always wearing out whatever side you're tearing up when you're doing like whatever tricks you're doing, or whatever side you ollie on the most. Probably your left shoe or right shoe. I don't know. This shows how much I've skateboarded. But yeah, like you could go and buy one shoe from the store.
Oh, wow.
And so that's why skateboarders were like, cool, my right shoe is still fine, but my left shoe is torn up. So I can go buy one shoe at the Van store. Or you could bring in whatever fabric you wanted, and they would make a shoe for you, just like in the back.
Wow.
In the real early days. So you could just bring in fabric, be like, this is my favorite shirt. I don't fit in it anymore, but I want to have it in some form. So can you make a shoe out of it? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Hell yeah.
So that was like really cool. There's lots of that just customization happening, which of course, plays well with skateboarders and then leading into the punk rock scene and all that. Like part of it for me was probably just seeing, bands wearing Vans all the time, going to Warped Tour. They're sponsored by Vans since the beginning. So, yeah.
The Warped Tour is like, it's one of those things that it's crazy to think at the time it didn't exist, and then it did exist. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Like maybe the biggest and most important continual music series in American history.
Yeah.
In terms of bands that like went on Vans Warped Tour as somebody nobody knew, and then they walked away selling millions of albums.
Oh yeah.
And also just the ability to be introduced into different subgenres of music that you would experience by going to Vans Warped Tour, because they wouldn't just book like one style or genre of bands. They would book multiple. I mean, I remember like one year I went to Vans Warped Tour and I saw NoFX followed by Eminem followed by AFI.
Yeah.
For
sure.
Like what?
Like
the
I
fuck?
remember seeing like Atmosphere was always on it. So there was like introductions to other, like if you're just like a punk rock kid, but you're like, oh cool, I like Atmosphere, and like I'll see who else maybe he likes and things like that. But there's a lot of exposure if you especially went to the side stages. You could see, which is also kind of weird. There'd be this band you like love, and you're like, there's like 30 people watching this band, which happens on any and especially in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of favorite bands I've seen where I'm like one of like 100 people at the show.
Right.
So, but yeah, in Warped Tour, sometimes it'd be a little more unexpected because you're like, there's 20,000 people here or whatever, and everybody's overseeing like My Chemical Romance instead.
Right. No, 100%. Yeah, and that definitely would happen. Yeah, it was, and but at the same, I really can't think of like any other tour that had that like staying power that it did. Because like I remember Ozfest being around that same time, and that was there for a while, and then that eventually petered out, and then I forget what the metal series was after Ozfest.
I just saw a poster for. It was like sponsored by Rockstar.
Yeah,
I saw a poster for it somewhere when we were out in California a couple weeks ago. I don't remember where I saw it. It's just like somewhere that had a bunch of stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's funny." That I forgot about that. Like,
yeah,
Rockstar was like the Mayhem.
Yeah, we had the Mayhem Fest.
Yeah,
Mayhem Fest. Yeah.
And it was like 2012 was the date on the poster, and I was like, "Oh, wow, I forgot about that."
But yeah,
but and now if there's a festival, like when Warped Tour ended, you could probably get in for like $60 or less. Like I remember paying like $26 or something the first years I went. Like it was like with Ticketmaster fees.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Like, oh, these fees. So I had to pay $4 in fees.
Yeah, if we only knew.
Yeah,
if we only knew how lucky we were.
Now, if you go to a festival, it's like, or any concert, it's really inflated. So
yeah, I mean, I feel like at this point, like if you get 2 tickets to a concert, you're paying over $100.
Yeah,
it's so hard to. I mean, unless you're going to like local shows, it's so hard to find anybody on tour. It's under that, and I think it's a big part of. I think it's a lot of things. I think it's Ticketmaster being a bunch of scum fucks. I think it's, and I also think that it's Ticketmaster preying upon people that didn't get to go see concerts during the pandemic.
Yeah.
And now we're like, oh my God, let me out of the fucking house and let me see a show.
Yeah.
Because
sure.
I remember like, and when I go to shows, like I'm into it and stuff, but I'm not the most emotional guy, so I can just kind of be like sitting there, like just kind of chilling and vibing. And I remember like going and seeing Gojira and Deftones, and like seeing Gojira live on that tour was like the first time I'd seen like heavy music in over like 2 or 3 years live.
Yeah.
And it fucking melted my brain. I was like, oh my God, I'm headbanging sideways right now because of how into this I am.
Yeah.
And I forgot what this was. And I think that there's a lot of people who are even bigger concert junkies than me that were like, oh, I need to get back to this. And then Ticketmaster's like, do you? Because we're going to charge you.
Yeah, I know. And it's like, I don't know, not being as able to go to like shows now either still is like, just because we have a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
So it's like when there is a show, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't just like risk walking up and hoping there's a ticket. You got to like buy in advance.
Right.
Because we have to like plan the whole night around it.
Right. You're doing the responsible thing.
If we were to do it, it'd be like, oh, I got to make sure I buy it online. But
thank you for not being that guy who brings a baby to the show. And we all kind of look at it like, what are you doing? Don't do that.
When we were in California, we found out a free Aquabats concert was happening like 30 miles away, but it was our last night there. And we're like, we just can't swing it.
Yeah, no, it's not.
We didn't have a car either, so we'd have to rent a car
or get an Uber.
And driving 30 miles in LA
ugh.
at rush hour would have taken forever to get there. And then afterwards, and then have to pack up and leave the hotel like 7:30 in the morning the next morning, or 6:30, I think it was the original time. So our flights got delayed. But
an LA half hour is a whole lot different from like an Idaho half hour.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's a whole different experience.
If someone's playing 30 miles away here, you're like, sweet, I'll be there in 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But there you're like,
no.
Oh, you're looking at an hour and a half if you're lucky.
Absolutely.
So we're like, oh man, we hate to have to miss this. But yeah, because we're like, oh, it could be Arliss. Is that a park? So perfect. It was going to be over by 8 p.m. But we also had to go back and pack up and head home. So we're like, we have an early flight. So we decided to go to a Keith Haring exhibit instead, which is still great because
that's sick.
That's another influential figure in my life. And I've never seen a Keith Haring exhibit. So that was really cool.
Hell yeah, dude.
So yeah. Side notes, tangents.
All right. Well, so culturally, we kind of talked about where Vans fits in the world.
Yeah.
How about fashion-wise, where does Vans fit?
I think it's interesting because, like, getting into Vans, it really wasn't super cool at the time I was getting into them, but it did have a lot of resurgence in the last decade. Like, I remember when the Cavs made it to when the Cavs won the NBA Finals. It was like some of the Cavs were wearing Vans skate highs at the like celebration parade afterwards. And I was like, what? How is that happening? These dudes are wearing Vans, and they weren't even like any of the special like collectible collaboration type Vans or anything. It was just like they're just wearing standard black skate highs. And I was like, wow, that's cool.
That's unexpected.
Yeah. And then like I remember Oh man, what was the group that did the Vans rap song?
There was a Vans rap song?
Yeah, in like 2006 or 7. Oh, I forget what it was called. The Pack. They're called The Pack. And there's just called the Vans song. Same as the Suicide Machine song.
Wow, okay.
But that song got popular, and I remember in Cincinnati, a dude wearing Jordans being like, "Where'd you get those Vans?" And I was like, "What? Nobody ever asks me. Nobody wearing Jordans ever asked me where I got Vans." So I
Right.
was like, "This is interesting." So like there was this like thing where it started coming back. They got some clout from just because like there was a popular song referencing like all about Vans. Look it up. It's a pretty funny like music video and so something like they got thick soles like a big booty chick. A big booty chick? Yeah, that's what I said. That's one of the lyrics. So
Excellent. This
Yeah.
is the songwriting American needs.
yeah, exactly. So but I just remember like around the same time of that, just guys in like totally not like what I expected people into Vans would be like, "Where'd you get those Vans?" And I'd be like Journeys at the mall. Like you probably walked by it.
It is that
So-
it is that thing where like sometimes like you'll see stuff now where like you'll see people that are in hip hop groups wearing like metal band shirts.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't expect that, but cool, awesome, hell yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
it was that era where like there'd be like the blinged out Misfit shirts.
Yeah.
And you'd be like, do they know that's a band, or just like that it's a skull that's
Yeah.
like gold and has like, because there was like a brand that did that, like I think it was called, I forgot what the brand was, but they had like a gold. They must have been licensed through Misfits because it was the Crimson Ghost.
I mean, Jerry Only will not say no to a
yeah,
paycheck.
because it was like it was pretty big for a while.
He's punk rock Gene Simmons. You
yeah,
put a contract
exactly.
in front of him. It's like we're gonna put the Crimson Ghost. It's
Yeah.
like sign.
It might have been like something like Diamond, maybe. That might have been what the brand was. But I just remember being like, this is like weird that everybody's in Misfit shirts all of a sudden. And now you can get them at like Target.
Oh yeah, no, they're everywhere. It is incredible. It's like one of those things where that the Crimson Ghost logo is one of those logos where even if you're not into punk, you know what it is.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you might not know the name of it, but you've seen it.
Yeah, this could be a whole other episode because I really liked on your Wu-Tang episode when you diverge into the logo.
Yeah.
So
Talking
whole
about-
episode about band logo.
I'd be down to talk about band
Yeah,
branding
yeah,
because it
yeah.
is an important thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I recently last week when I went and saw Gojira Mastodon, Lorna Shore open for me. I'd never listened to them before, but I was blown away not by Lorna Shore's performance, but by their logo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because their logo was this very cool, like black metal inspired lettering, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you could still read it was Lorna Shore.
and what do they sound like?
They sound like a late 2000s, early 2010s screamo band
Okay.
mixed with like watered down black metal.
That's like exactly what I was gonna guess. Unless maybe they were on one of the final Warp tours. Just because I was like, I feel like that name just makes me think of all the like metalcore bands
Yeah,
at the end of Warp Tour.
very
Warped Tour
metalcore-y.
runs.
Yeah, like it's definitely one of those things where it's like, it's like Bring Me the Horizon, Bullet
Yeah,
for My
yeah.
Valentine. Like it's
Okay,
it's
that's
in
what I was
that,
gonna guess,
It's
yeah.
in that world.
Okay, it's funny that just because it's like a weird name for a metal band, I think.
Yeah.
So it just makes me think, oh, it must be like metalcore,
Right.
of that influence.
but their logo is like super cool, and it even has like
Yeah.
it even has like a little bit like it has like at the top of it there's like woods and shit, where it's like there's like a moon or something. Like it's a very well done
Interesting.
logo. So I'm always and that's something I always look out for, and I know you as a designer
Yeah,
are probably
yeah.
the same way. I
sure.
I love to like look what bands put out for like what are they putting out for their album covers? Like what does their font look like? Like what is their what do they use for their actual name on the
Yeah.
album? What does that look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
Because there's some that are just fucking iconic, like Metallica with the M and the A that come down on
Yeah.
the ends, or like the Slayer logo, or we talked before about the Misfits with the
Yeah.
Wu-Tang W. There's just shit that like even if you don't know who the band is,
Yeah.
you instantly recognize it's just a part of pop culture.
Yeah.
It's very Coca-Cola like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It's like one of those things that a good band logo starts to transcend, or just like CBGB's, even that. I don't even know. That's just recognizable, and people wouldn't even know what it was. But I remember being like, "Oh, they just sell CBGB shirts at JCPenney."
Yeah, no, 100%. People just love it and reckon, and they're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
a thing, and they
Yeah,
grab it.
exactly.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I do think it is interesting with Vans where like Vans fashion wise has become this thing where it is instantly recognizable. Like when
Yeah.
you see a pair of Vans, you don't think of any other shoe. It's just, oh, those are Vans.
Yeah.
And then also like what they've parlayed into now, like the Vans stores you can go to, and like they're not just making shoes anymore. They're making shirts and they're making pants and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so I think that, so dovetailing off of like when I started to notice this sort of rise happening again, and it was years between like dudes asking me where I got my Vans to seeing the Cleveland Cavaliers wearing skate highs in a parade, but just like something where there's just constant upswing. There'd be like, they started doing collaborations with like in the fashion scene in that era too. So in like around 2005 they started what was called Vans Vault, which now this year they're starting to phase it out. I think it was 2005, although I feel like people are saying 20 years, but I feel like it started around, maybe it was like 2004, and they're just like rounding it off. But anyway, I'm gonna get hit in the face by all the Vans collectors if I have the year wrong, but
It's okay.
yeah. Anyway, so they started doing that around, and I say this because that's when I started taking notice of it. I started seeing this Vans Vault stuff starting to pop up when I'd search for Vans online. So like the pair I'm wearing is one of those really early releases from the Vans Vault line that I hunted for about 5 years from when I found it, or when I first saw it online. So I think it was they released them in 2005. I think I first saw them in 2006. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And the print on it is an 80s sort of Vans heritage print with skateboarding dinosaurs on it, and they're called Vanosaurs.
Nice.
So that's one that they bring back from time to time. But they also started putting out just like higher end, better materials on Vans. So like really nice leather, or just like a cool collaboration. So they started, one of the early collaborations was with Marc Jacobs, and I think that's what started getting them into the fashion scene a little more. Mm-hmm. And then they would do collaborations with just stores that were influential to me. I'd be like, I have no idea what the store is in New York City that's collaborating with Vans, but the shoes are cool, so I'm going to try and hunt them down, kind of thing like that. So I think getting that again, they were working to get buy-in from like a totally different scene, but a scene that also worked well with that, because I think that the cool thing with Vans is they are like a canvas for all kinds of other things on it. Like I've gotten into different artists just because they'll have their art on a pair of Vans, or they'll have a collaboration. Like I might find out who the artist was later. Like actually, I was at Vans headquarters recently and I was wearing a shirt, and this guy came up to me and was like, that's an old one. I was like, oh, do you remember this one? He's like, yeah, I drew it.
Nice.
So I was like, whoa, that's really cool. But yeah, so just like some of those, like bringing back the old heritage prints, or working with cool designers or whatever that maybe has a memory of an old Vans print or something, and they bring that back in some unique way. Or one of the big ones for me, dovetailing into like nerdy interests, they had a Vans Vault Star Wars collaboration, and they brought back a bunch of heritage prints, but then they put in Star Wars details in them.
Nice.
So they have like a print that from the 80s just called the Miami print, and it's just like cool, like palm trees and like cool shapes all over it. But then they threw in like silhouettes of I think they put in like all the stuff from Hoth.
Okay.
So there's like AT-AT walkers.
Nice.
And the
small like planes that they had.
The small one that would
with the tow cable.
Trip it up. Why can't I think of it? Like they're not called the snow speeder.
Yeah, they're not a speeder.
There's some, but yeah, they had like all these silhouettes on there of that, which is funny because it's in Miami. Or like the print's called Miami print. So
right.
It's palm trees and like Hoth details,
which is the total contrast.
And so but it worked really well. Or they had like an old pirate design, but instead of the pirates, they put in like Vader and stormtroopers.
Perfect.
And stuff like that. And I remember being like, whoa, this is blowing my mind.
I love a good collaboration.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I really love when you take two things that I'm a big fan of and you stick them together.
Yeah.
Like that rules. I know that I have Cincinnati Reds merch with Stormtrooper helmets
Oh,
on
yeah.
them. I have like an Ohio State shirt that's OHIO spelled out in like various Star Wars
Yeah.
memorabilia, like lightsabers and shit for
Oh,
the
yeah.
eye.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it's also a good way to get introduced to like another brand outside of something you're into,
Yeah.
which is always cool. You know,
Yeah.
when you get people that come together and it's like, oh, I love this thing. So if they're partnering with this person, that's a stamp of approval right there. I'm gonna go check out what this thing is right now.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I think getting collabs with different entities that just boosted them into different scenes. It's like Star Wars, Disney. They had a whole Toy Story collection that was awesome for me because Toy Story was also influential in being like, oh, cool. I kind of want to try doing stuff like that when I grow up.
Yeah.
So, so like getting into artwork through all these different things that then like it's just cool seeing like something I collect. It's also like one thing with lots of sneaker collections are they're like really high level. There's like a big like entry fee to get in, you know, in a way. Like getting some vintage Jordans is really expensive.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
And it's more expensive now to get vintage Vans, but it's still more affordable than
Yeah.
that.
No, definitely. If you want to get into the vintage market, there is definitely a steep price
Yeah.
into the vintage
Yeah.
Nikes at this point. And yeah, and then even in that, then too, like talking about like the whole thing of like the whole collector mentality.
Yeah.
Of like new stuff that comes out, but it's like, hey man, this is limited to like 1,000 pairs or
Oh
something.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
Knowing
like,
that's limited. Well, so like the pair I'm wearing, the Vanasaurs, like hunting for those for 5 years, and then like 1 year I finally found some on eBay. They were half size down. Ordered them, didn't fit, so I was really bummed out. A few months later, my size popped up, so I was able to get them. But then like having that like years long hunt finally pay off is just like a thrill. And then there was another pair that was released around the same time that I got. So like in 2006, the skater Christian Hosoi had one of his first Vans collabs that I remember just thinking like, whoa, that's sweet. It had like the Rising Sun logo on the side, and I found some online skate shop that was taking online orders. I got them, and there were another pair that was like elevated. They had like cushy insoles. I was like, these are way more comfortable than a lot. It feels like I'm sliding into a pillow when I put these on. So being like, oh, so there's more to this brand's like comfort than what, you know, you pick up at Journeys. And that sort of like led into having that vault line. And they had a line called Syndicate that was more geared towards skate shops and just like higher end skate shoes that you could like seek out. And the sort of close knitness of internet communities at the time. I ended up finding a website called Off the Wall Site, which is now called Under the Palms. And just having those being like communities where you could go talk to people on message boards about like the thing you're into. And with Vans, the thing that was cool is like there wasn't like a gatekeeper mentality anywhere. Everybody just like stoked to talk about Vans, you know, and just like, oh yeah, I love Vans because I grew up wearing them, going to punk rock shows or whatever, or because I grew up skateboarding, or just because that's what I get every year for my school shoes growing up. Because that's what my parents would get me growing up in SoCal or something, you know? So it's cool, like, hearing people's stories like that as you get into the, like, community aspect of things.
I think that's like one of the best parts of the internet was the rise of message boards and the ability to interact with people that were into shit that you were into, but maybe people around you in your small town weren't into.
Oh yeah.
And that was a big game changer to be able to go on like forums and be like, hey, I'm into this shit. And it's like, I am too. And it's like, well, I'm very deeply into it. And be able to have like in-depth conversations about a thing that you care about.
Yeah. That's how, like, I was on so many ska message boards. And then like, I was like, I need to find a Vans message board. And finally one popped up one day. And that's kind of cool because that's like people I met through that site have bled over into like Instagram, and I still, you know some of those people and got to meet some of them recently for the first time.
So how does Vans handle like exclusives now? Like, do they have release dates for stuff? Do they have a thing where you have to get on the app, or do you have to go online to stores, or how's it work?
It depends. So for a while, like with Vault and Syndicate, it would be you had to buy them from Vault. It would be like a fashion boutique shop, and Syndicate would be a skate shop. So there was a while where those shops were allowed to put them online, so you could just pick them up when they released, and you would sort of find out the release date, but you'd also sort of get this little list of like, these are the shops that carry it. So I know around the time if I see a release is coming out, I know to start checking these sites, and then they might pop up. But then also, early enough on, that's a lot of stuff would linger forever. You know, you could wait for it to go on sale, or you might find out about some release you missed, and like a year later, be
You'll
like,
still
"Oh, cool,
scoop it up? That's
yeah,
nice.
it's still on there." So because Vans
Oh, yeah.
weren't like as sought after, so it was cool. There was that thrill of the hunt of certain pairs, but there was also like that it was attainable, you know, and you could enjoy having those things and wearing them because they're like also sort of less precious. They're still like the pairs where you're like, oh, I'm gonna like make these last, but it'd be like less precious. So you could enjoy wearing them and like making it part of your style and all that. But now for a while, actually, they were like, oh, you can't put these online anymore. There was like a year or two, maybe longer, where you had to like email a shop and be lucky enough for them to be like, yeah, we'll just send you an invoice and mail it to you, because Vans wanted it to be like that limited for certain releases. And then they eased up on that, and then now some of the Vault releases were on the Vans website, and certain shops would have like an app or something like that, depending on what the release is, if it's a big one or whatever. So it all depends, but it definitely got harder in the last like several years to get some of the bigger releases. Like, it used to be like, yeah, if I know the day it's coming out, I can get a pair.
You can scoop it.
Yeah,
But
and then
now it's like,
now it'd be
maybe
like, 'cause
not.
people are like, oh, it's collectible, so you get the vultures coming in to
Was
swoop them
there
up and
anything
resell.
that got swiped up immediately that you didn't, that like just, you were like, oh shit, that's here and gone?
Yeah, so like in recent years, there's a store out in SoCal called Blends, and they had a pair. They released this pair that was like basically like a leather jacket almost. Like, it was a skate high, but they turned the stripe, which is called the jazz stripe. They turned it into a bone, and then they put like a zipper on the back, and it was really high quality leather. And I remember being like, the time those came out, it was probably almost 10 years ago. The first release came out. I think they said they only made 100 pairs. There's probably a little more just because of samples and stuff like that. But still, at the time, I was like, oh, I'll be able to get them because I know the time they're releasing. And that, I wasn't able to get a pair of Blends for years until somebody, like the guy that runs Under the Palms, is like, hey, they were going to get a friends and family list from Blends for people that they know are devoted. And
Oh,
if
nice.
you want to get a pair, the new release,
Hell yeah.
they'll hook you up to make sure you don't have to pay resale prices. So there'd be things like that that sort of started to pop up just from like knowing people in the community and stuff like that. So yeah, those are the more sought after ones. Some of the Supreme releases would be really sought after too.
I can imagine.
Because Supreme, like
Supreme is,
like I know of Supreme because
Yeah.
of Vans. Because I'd be like, oh, they have some cool collaborations with this Supreme brand, and then so I know of that just because of. So I think when Supreme's rise started, all their collabs with Vans, that sort of also started the uptick of Vans into fashion and culture, more mainstream again.
yeah, Supreme is a unique thing as well,
Yeah.
too. Like with its whole thing in like hype beast culture and what it's turned into, and like
Yeah.
just where that brand appears now.
Oh yeah,
It's a whole thing. That's definitely another future podcast. I would love to have somebody
yeah.
who collects Supreme
Yeah.
stuff, because that's its
there's
own
a lot. You gotta find somebody that has a Supreme brick.
weird little rabbit hole. Yes, indeed, indeed. How do you store stuff, man? Like, do you display your Vans? Do you keep them in boxes? Like how does your
I do
collection
keep them
work?
in boxes, which makes it kind of unwieldy at times. But I've found these shelves from the Container Store, just so like metal shelves, but they have like a wrap around them, so I can keep them in my basement and not worry about bugs and stuff, because we have an unfinished basement. So I'll keep a lot of them downstairs, and then like in our closet or wherever. Like the pairs I'm wearing like on the daily will be like by the front door.
Okay.
And then Melissa's always like, you have too many shoes out. You need to put some shoes away.
I know the story. I've had this said to me before.
Yeah. So she's like, you got to put some shoes away. And I'm like, ah. So especially in the month of July when 31 Days of Vans is happening, and we're supposed to we post a different pair on Instagram every day. But I also am like, well, I'm gonna wear the pair most times.
Right.
Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm not really going anywhere today, so I'll put on a pair and go outside and take a picture, and then just put the shoes away right away. But if it's something where I'm like going somewhere, then like you get back at the end of the day, maybe you don't put it away right away. But then yeah, that month it's like, oh, you could end up with a lot of shoes that are out. So, but yeah.
All right, play a game with me here real quick. traditionally called Fuck, Marry, Kill, but my friends that over at the Craft Brewed Sports shop, Craft Brewed Sports, they have Sip, Chug, Drain, Pour. Sip, Chug, Drain, Pour, Vans, high tops, low tops, slip-ons. So one just wear once, one you wear them forever, and one you kill off.
So it's interesting because that's changed over the years too.
Ooh,
like there was a while where like skate highs were my favorite.
Okay.
So something was a skate high. Around that same time, like there would be lots of band collabs too. So I remember getting like Bad Brain skate highs and stuff like that, where I'd be like, oh man, that was a pair I didn't wear enough. But like I would always wear skate highs or just shows. Skate highs, stay on your feet way better than any of the low tops pair.
And you also don't get flat tired if you're wearing highs.
Exactly. So those would be my show shoes. Anytime I'd go to a show, it'd be skate highs. But then, there's the old school, which is probably people think is like the Vans low top version of the skate high. But then, like I said, there's the deck shoe style, which they have the authentic and the era. And then there's the slip-on. So that's one of those things where like everybody's like, oh, what's your favorite silhouette? What's your favorite Vans silhouette? And then you can also get into the half cab. And there's like a really like devoted following of the half cab out there. But for me right now, I think the Vans authentic, which is the most like bare bones pair. There's like no, like these are the eras with the padded collar, less of a padded collar or no padded collar at all. Like that's my standard shoe right now, especially in the summertime.
Okay, so that's your Sip.
So that's my Mary,
that's your
I
Mary.
guess. Yeah, that's probably my current favorite.
That's your Sip. That's your Mary.
Then the old school would probably be next.
Okay, so the Chug, the Chug or Fuck, the one that you're every once in a while.
The slip-on's been moving in though too, because like the slip-on's so standard, but now I wear it all the time. Like I said, like just because they're easy.
Yes, and slip-ons are by far my favorite Vans.
Yeah,
I love slip-ons.
Yeah, so slip-ons or the old school, I don't know, man.
There can only be one.
Then if we have to kill, I'd probably say the half cab.
Okay, the half cab's gone.
Just because I love the history of the half cab, but I never wear them. So like I can't pull them off.
You can do without.
Yeah, I can do without the half cab. So yeah.
Do you prefer solid color or pattern or checkered Vans?
I tend to go with probably checkered or pattern. But then, I like when there's a solid pair with some checkered detail or some other detail hidden in there. Even if it's just on the bottom or like the lining or there's like a tag somewhere or something. I like when there's a little bit of extra flair to them. But the patterns and the checkered are what got me into it. So like for a long time, I'd be like, I don't need a solid pair of Vans until, I got a job and I was like, well, I still want to wear Vans. So I'd be like, okay, I'll get some black leather Vans or something and wear those to work. But yeah, if there's like, I was thinking about this the other day when I was at Vans headquarters. I was like, oh man, I really want to ask people like what they're like, what's their thing that if it's on a pair of Vans, they have to get it, Like, so for me, it would be the Vanasaur. Because it's limited enough. Like, they don't always have a release with the Vanasaur on it. So, like, checkerboard, there's always checkerboard Vans. Right. I can't buy every checkered pair of Vans. But if there's a Vanasaur on it, I'm like, oh, I got to get that. Because it only comes out every couple of years if they do that, So I thought that would be, I was there and there was like a panel of Vans designers. And I was going to ask them, like, oh, what's your Vans vice, I guess. Like if it's on those shoes, like you got to get it. So I think that would be a really interesting thing to know. I need to like put that out into the community there. But
I've definitely gotten hit by that before with Vans. I like Star Wars. I got the Vader slip-ons. I know my friend Jamie Filer. Jamie has been rocking the. He's a huge fan of The Shining, so he got the ones.
Oh, you got the Shining ones?
Yeah, the twins.
Yeah.
He's got those.
Sweet.
Those are sick. Yeah, I'm a big fan of like any van that there's a slip-on that has a graphic on it. Because I think that's a very cool thing that they were able to do. Because like you're dealing with just a flat space as opposed to like having to work around like, tennis shoes and shit like that.
Yeah.
Not tennis shoes, but like shoestrings.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot more space for art there. So when it comes to artwork on Vans, slip-ons work so well for it. Or like you can upload designs and when you custom Vans. So I've done like pop rocket vans and things like that. And the slip-on for me works the best because I can just fit the most stuff on there.
Exactly.
Like it's the most visible, and maybe not even the most stuff, but it can be the biggest. So especially if I'm like, oh, I want to put the pop rocket logo on it, then I want people to be able to see it.
Right. And
So
you can get a good sized, decent image on a
Yeah.
shoe. Cause like, I mean, I know like I have tattoos on my feet that are like palm sized tattoos. And it's like, yeah, you can do that with like a Vans with a slip on. You can have
Yeah.
like a palm sized tattoo sized image
Yeah.
on the top of your feet.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen someone that got checkered Vans tattooed on their foot.
Nice.
Like they got like they made it look like a pair of checkered Vans.
Nice.
I feel like there was a picture of that circulating on the internet like a while back. I'm like, wow, that's intense.
That's
Maybe I should
dedication.
do that someday.
Yeah, there are some people out there that get really into the shoe game where
Yeah.
they end up getting their entire foot tattooed into into a shoe.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, I think a pattern, but it has to be like a certain pattern would be because it couldn't just be like any pattern. You know, there's some ugly patterns out there. I don't want like a Vera Wang pair of Vans.
No.
So
Live,
live, laugh, love.
do you have anything that I know you said the Vanasaur, but like, is there anything else that are like special edition pairs that you're trying to track down, or like any other collaborations that that you would want to see happen?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, there's always like the collaboration thing. I've always wanted a pair of Suicide Machine Vans, Suicide Machines, just because apparently there was going to be a pair right around the time they broke up in like 2005.
Bummer.
I think they were supposedly in talks for having like a collab, which would have been awesome. So I've always wanted a pair of Suicide Machines Vans. I've considered making my own just to make a stencil and spray paint it on some skate highs or something.
Yeah, I mean, just do like the first album cover, like
yeah,
where he's like
or-
jumping in the air.
Yeah, something like that, or just get their logo and just put it on the side of some Vans. Yeah, I think for me, it's like band collabs that I'd like to see, and I've been lucky enough to get some Aquabats Vans.
Nice.
I've seen Rancid Vans out there,
That makes sense.
but those were like I don't think they were like a mainstream pair. It was like a pair they might have made for them or something like that.
Well, and then that goes back to earlier. You and I off mic were talking about the skull from the
from Life Won't Wait.
from Life Won't Wait, and it's just like that skull would work great on a pair of Vans.
Oh yeah,
slip-ons.
that'd be awesome. Put them on some slip-ons or the side of a skate high, and it would fit perfectly in that area.
Yeah, definitely.
So like band collabs. There's not really as many. Like I feel like a lot of the other properties, like Star Wars has had a collab, Disney's had multiple collabs, Stranger Things has had collabs. There's like the whole, if I were to go to like certain B movies, like Return of the Living Dead Vans would be sweet.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I would love to have some Tarman Vans.
Yeah,
That'd be sick.
Or like go to some of the movies. Like I love watching 80s movies and seeing what Vans people are wearing. So like I know
that'd be cool to have like a series of Vans slip-ons that were like the image of the person from the movie that was wearing the Vans.
yeah, exactly. Just like have that in there.
Wait, did Spicoli have
Yeah,
Vans?
Spicoli.
I was gonna say
That's how Vans like blew up in the 80s was through Fast Times at Ridgemont High. So like that like exploded them into the mainstream, and that's how they like made it into like the Midwest, and people are like, oh, I want these shoes. So, but yeah, there's like other movies. Every now and then I'll be like, oh, look, that person's wearing Vans. Like I know in European Vacation, there's a really cool pair that Rusty Griswold is wearing that for a while they're just like, I think it was like red checkerboard and blue checkerboard on some slip-ons, and like different panels had either red or blue.
Whoa.
And being like, whoa, I want a pair of those. Then a few years ago, like a pair like that did come out again. So I was like, cool, I can have my Rusty Griswold Vans now. But yeah.
All right, before we move, we were starting to wind down. I got a few questions left for you. One thing I want to hit before we get into you and your trip out west is, what is kind of the price point of Vans when you get into collecting on the higher levels? So, like, is it a thing where, like, if you go online, you want a limited edition pair of Vans, are we talking like the $500 range of something like Yeezys can get up to? Or?
For the blends pairs, especially the original blends, they can get up to 500 if you're like collecting them. But then again, there were like supposedly like 100 of those made, and the people that bought them wore them. So there's very limited pairs of those left. So if you want them, you're gonna pay a lot.
You're gonna pay a premium.
But for me, I'm like, I don't need to pay $500 for a pair of Vans.
Yeah.
For me, I don't like to pay retail, or like I don't like to pay retail. I'll wait for sales sometimes. But if it's something I gotta have and like retail, then it's like, yeah, well, at least it's retail. I don't want to pay resale prices on things. But I think the one So there's a store in Columbus, which was like one of the I think the only vault dealer in Ohio that had a collab. They had a couple collabs a few years ago. And they had a pair that was like sort of looked like the moon boots from the moon landing.
Oh, cool.
So they did skate highs. They did like this like waxed white canvas, and then like the foxing or like the sole, the wrap that goes around it is called foxing. That was like a really light blue, like on the moon boots, and they like zipped up and they put in some like cool fabric on the inside that's supposed to be like moisture wicking and all this stuff. And those I think were like 125. And I was like, well, yeah, I want these. And I didn't even have to go up to the store and get it because my sister lives in Columbus, and she was
nice.
She had started dating someone, this guy, who camped out to get a pair for me, and they're married now. So I was like, seal of approval with this guy.
Wow.
I'd met him like at Christmas that year, and maybe like another time. And I was like, wow, Lewis is cool. You should stick with this dude.
That's how you seal the deal on the brother-in-law thing.
Yeah,
you
so
camp
she got
out for him.
Yeah, and she got a pair for herself because she's real into like NASA and all. Like, you know, John Glenn was like one of her heroes growing up. But yeah, so they went, because I was gonna try to go to the shoe release for that, but it was also like, do I want to wake up and drive to Columbus and be at the store when it opens?
Yeah.
So luckily they were able to get a pair for me. So those were a really cool release, and they say Ohio on the bottom. Like
nice.
like this store, Soul Classics, was really like, they're like really rooted in like just being an Ohio store, and they sell like all types of brands and stuff. But their Vans collabs, they really throw in that like Ohio element. Maybe because it's a West Coast brand, so like, you know, we want to show our Ohio roots when we're doing a collab with Vans. You know, they probably do it with some of their other collabs, but I just pay attention to the Vans ones.
People from Cincinnati love shit that says Cincinnati.
Yeah.
People from Ohio love shit that says Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a tale as old as time.
It's got to get a hell is real pair of Vans.
Oh, dude, I'd love a hell is real pair. That'd be awesome.
That could probably be a thing.
Well, look, we flirted with it tonight throughout the episode. But recently you got a chance to go out to California and do some work with Vans.
Yeah.
What's the deal, man? Like, give us a story.
So there's this, I mentioned earlier, there's a thing called 31 Days of Vans that started as an Instagram thing where you just sort of post a pair of Vans every day of the month of July, right? And there's a guy, his Instagram handle's Han Solo Man. And like, so like in 2015, I remember being on vacation, and like Instagram was still like newer at the time, but still like really fun to be like, oh, cool. There's like sort of a community building on there. So I found out like people are like, oh yeah, people are doing 31 Days of Vans. I only had 2 pairs of Vans with me on that trip, but so the first 5 days I just sort of went back and forth between the 2 different pairs. But I was like, oh, cool. You just like post every day of the month. Like for me, it was never like I need to show off my collection or show off 31 different pairs. I just thought it'd be cool to show like, you know, be creative with it. So the following year, I was like, well, I want to make some art just to hype up the event and get people excited for it. So I just started doing art for 31 Days of Vans, sort of like a flyer to put out. And usually it'd just be like the day before I'd put it out most years. But I guess what started happening is over the years, Vans took notice that this was happening on Instagram. So I think originally in 2020 they wanted to do something where like they were going to put out a pair of Vans for just the collectors in this community, and maybe like they put something on the Vans family app. That fell through because 2020 happened. But then in 2021, so the Under the Palm site is run by Bill Cruz. And I've sort of gotten to know him over the years through the Vans community, just because he's, I guess 15 years ago is when I found Off the Wall site, which again turned into Under the Palms. But he sent me a message like, hey, I'm working with Vans on like a 31 Days of Vans thing. Do you want to do some art to go on the app? And I was like, well, yeah.
Sure, man.
That sounds good.
Indeed, I do.
So like I started doing some stuff with Vans that would go on the Vans family app every, like the last couple of years in July. For 31 Days of Vans. That was just really cool. And then Steve Van Doren started posting in 2022, and that's the CEO of Vans and the son of Paul Van Doren, who's the founder. And he's just sort of like the face of Vans, because he's like a really super awesome, friendly guy. I mean, he's also really cool. Like, I remember about 10 years ago seeing him on Warped Tour working at just selling t-shirts at the Vans tent, like selling $10 t-shirts at the Vans tent. And I was like, are you Steve Van Doren? He was like, yeah, I'm Steve Van Doren. So I got my picture with him, but it was like in the early enough days of Instagram where I like knew what he looked like, because like sometimes he'd be in some of the Vans posts and I'd be like, oh, that's crazy. Steve Van Doren is in Cincinnati selling t-shirts.
He's out here in the trenches.
Yeah, he's like doing the work. So, and he still does that to this day. He'll like drive around in an RV and visit different van stores and just to meet the employees and stuff like that.
Cool.
So what was I talking about though?
Just collaborating with him. And working
Yeah.
with
Oh
him.
yeah. So he started posting during 31 Days of Vans. We're like, wow, Steve is posting during 31 Days of Vans. And, so actually I think that happened the first year that I did the artwork on the app. So then there's just like this cool thing that Vans was doing like in the community, and like it just was neat. I don't know of any other brands that really sort of maybe take note of something like that that's happening, and then they're like, hey, let's start working with these people, because that's our audience and our community.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah. So then since I was doing this art every year, so this year there's Bill, who does Under the Palms, and then there's Clayton, who does Wearing Waffles, which is that's his Instagram account, and he sort of started that as just like, just promote, like talk to the Vans community, and he would have like people on Instagram Live, like Meet the Vans fam is what he would call that, and he just sort of became like, I almost feel like he's like the Ted Lasso of the Vans community. He's just really super awesome and nice too, and so they were like, especially in 2020, just having like these little like interviews to look forward to on Instagram was really cool to have happen. And then like, so in 2020, I guess maybe it started in 2021, because it was also happened to be when I first got to start doing some of the stuff for the app. So one day, like I want to say in April, Clayton was like, hey, Newcon wants to give you a call. Do you want to talk to him? And Newcon is Jason Ulep, who is, that Newcon is his Instagram handle. And he is Vans graphic branding design like manager.
Oh, whoa, okay, yeah.
And I was like, he wants to call me?
Yes, I would like to talk to him.
Okay, yeah. Send him my way. So like 10 minutes later, I got a call from Jason. He's like, hey, we're putting out some shoes for the collectors this year, and we want to put some of your lettering on it for 31 Days of Vans. So can you send over something? It's going to go on the tag, right? So I was like, okay, that sounds pretty awesome. Like,
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like, he was like, it's gonna be on the inside tag, but I was like, oh, I also want to like go above and beyond. So I went through all my old designs, like, none of these really like would look great on a tag. So I just did something all new, because I wanted to look, part of like, I wanted to fit my style and Pop Rocket style, but also like Van style and like the community and all that, just and fit in that little tiny like 1-inch square.
Right.
And then there's also like, and we're going to try and have a meetup at Vans headquarters, and you'll be invited, and there's going to be a barbecue and some other stuff like that. And we're like, yeah, that sounds awesome.
Of course, I'll be there.
So, I think like that day I just like buckled down, redid some lettering, sort of based on some of my older lettering, but then worked in some new elements and wanted it to look like sort of balance well with what my favorite Vans label, like tag label is too, which ended up going on, which is good because that ended up being on the shoe. So, but it ended up being, let's see, the event was on the 3rd, like 2 weeks ago, basically on a Thursday. So a little less than 2 weeks ago. But when this comes out, it'll be like a month ago, right? So, but anyway, like August 3rd, I think was the event. So I sent them all like the designs, sent them Pop Rocket logo, because they're like, yeah, we want to put your logo on the box, stuff like that. So I was like really excited. Didn't know what the shoe was going to look like at all, other than like Jason was like, yeah, it's going to be a skate mid, so like a little like shorter version of the skate high, and it's going to be black. That's all he told me. He's like, I want it to be something that people will want to wear and it will sort of be good for everybody, So I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And just to have my art on like the tongue is like inside tongue is cool. So yeah, sign me up.
So, I mean, it feels like you're playing this very core now as you say it on the podcast, but like emotionally, what was that like when you hung up on that call? Like, did you fucking scream? Did you like, we're like, Melissa, everything has changed. Like,
yeah. Well, It's almost like because I had done some of that through the app, I sort of knew, like the first time I did the stuff through the app, I was like probably like shaking, like, because we had like a Zoom meeting and stuff like that. And I'm sitting there like, holy crap, I'm like, and that was like a whole team of people at Vans for that first meeting. And I was like, well, there's like 5 people from Vans on here, and Bill from Under the Palms was on there too, sort of coordinating things. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So like that one I really prepped. I did a bunch of artwork in advance, and they didn't expect that, so that was cool. So I could show them my ideas, and they're like, oh sweet, let's go with that one. Then I had time to refine, and we did like sort of a neon sign animated thing for 31 Days of Vans that year. And so this time it was more like, is this real? Like, is there enough time? Because he was like, he's like, I need the design like today if we can get these manufactured in time too. Because it was like April.
Why does this always happen when people deal with
yeah,
designers?
yeah. He's like, so
like this is one thing I will never understand about working with people is like, people are like, I love what you do, thank you.
Yeah,
and I need this. Okay, when you need it. Well, tomorrow, because it's
Yeah.
like, motherfucker, like, how do we don't work like this. Like, I gotta build the goddamn thing.
And Jason knows because he's a graphic designer
Right.
too. But I think it's something where like he had to make sure that it was going to happen. But then by the time he got the go ahead,
it
was
like,
also like,
this.
okay, we need it yesterday.
Yeah.
And then also, contacting me, he was like, oh, he's been doing art for like putting stuff up every year for several years now. He'll have something in his back pocket to send me. And I was like, I kind of do, but I also want to do something like really,
really awesome,
special for this one too. So I just like buckled down, got it something to him like after midnight. So that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it made it, and it worked out. So, but yeah, that was like super cool. And like, also just like, will it happen?
What was the feeling like when you were actually holding the shoe in your hand?
That's the thing. Like, so the Vans event, we get to Vans headquarters. We're like right on time to get there, right? But then, it was Melissa and I, and then we brought Arlo, our son, 1-year-old. We had to change his diaper in the parking lot right when we got there.
Something happens.
And then you're like, oh no. So we like get there and they're like, all right, you guys got to get in there because they're about to start.
Look,
so
I'll be honest.
Run in.
He's probably not the first person to shit his pants in the Vans.
Yeah, exactly. I also did.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fine.
Everybody there that night did because it was all collectors from the community that got invited.
So everybody's just geeking out.
Everybody's just geeking out. It's the Comic-Con of Vans night.
What
right?
was the vibe like with that? Was everybody just like so happy to be there?
Yeah, everybody was like stoked. And you get in there and we're greeted by Steve Van Doren, Jason, who was my contact, and then Catherine Acosta, who is the official Vans archivist, and this is a newer position they've had in the last 4 or 5 years. So she's like, but you can follow her on Instagram. Her Instagram's like bourgeois spirituality or something like that. But she's always posting really cool Vans, just like historical stuff.
Historical content.
So the greeting was like, hey, I'm Steve Van Doren. Welcome to this event. Like, Jason talked a little bit. Catherine gave a presentation on like all this really cool Vans history stuff, showing like some of the really early stores. They found like some Super 8 footage to show us of
Nice.
the first stores. Talked about the store that was in her hometown growing up, which she was like, oh, I looked it up. It's still around, and it is now the longest running Vans store that's currently open.
Very cool.
So there's all this like cool stuff, and then at the end they're like, oh, by the way, guys, we have the shoe to show you, right? And that's when I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what this is gonna look like. So they have this like video that they had made of the shoe, and it comes up and she shows a side profile, and I'm like, sweet. It looks about what similar to what I expected, but I wasn't sure what the materials were going to be. And it was a really cool leather panel with some suede on the tongue and the heel. But then they start showing the other details, and my designs on the sole, on the inside tag, on the insole, and then embroidered on the back. And I was like, whoa, that's incredible.
Did you faint?
So then I had to go change my diaper.
I was going to say, yeah. Like, I mean, at that moment, that had to have been like a huge moment of impact upon you.
Yeah, because it was just like one of those things where, we're kind of rushed. We got there just enough time to like get a seat. Didn't get to like talk to anybody yet. So I'm like sitting there like, oh my gosh, there's that guy from Instagram. There's that girl from Instagram. There's like all these people. I'm like, oh, I know. And then other people who I didn't know what they looked like because, it's Instagram. Not everybody posts themselves on Instagram. So that was really cool. Then we move outside to like this courtyard area for a big group photo. And then there's a barbecue that happens. Steve Van Dorn like mans the grill and makes burgers and hot dogs for everybody.
Perfect, thank you.
Because that's his thing to do. He likes to cook for everybody. Again, obviously, because he likes to sell $10 T-shirts at Warped Tour too. He's just like in the
he's a man of the
thick
people.
Of it. Yeah,
he's
a man of the people. So there's this like barbecue happening, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to all these people. Melissa was like a saint and wrangled Arlo for a lot of it, so I could talk to people and pay attention to things. And then they had, after everybody was finished eating, they brought out 4 of Van's like head designers to have like a panel. So it really was like being at like, for all us Vans nerds being like, whoa.
Vans Comic-Con.
Vans Comic-Con. So they had a panel and did like Q&A. And that's when I was like, oh man, I really want to ask these people like what their like go-to Vans vices, But yeah, it was really cool just to see all these like head designers that are like working on these collaborations, and Steve Van Dorn talking about like, yeah, it's cool to make Aquabats Vans and Pennywise Vans and things like that. So yeah, then everybody got their shoes. So everybody there has this like pair of shoes that has my design on it.
Nice.
So
dude,
that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That is very cool. I'm super happy for you. I mean, that's
thanks.
one of those things where it's just like, you basically gotta like live the experience of like, hey, I got to go play catch with my favorite quarterback, or I got to go play guitar with my favorite band for a night. Like, you really got to have a really cool experience with this thing that you've loved forever, and now you're a part of it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where it's weird to be like, oh, because you can customize Vans and have your art put on their website. But having something that's like distributed and like I brought him here tonight to show you and everything, but
I'm gonna take some photos.
Yeah, it's really cool to have this like official pair of Vans, and like everything is super legit on it. Like it's embroidered. Like you can't get that when it's a custom pair of Vans online.
No, definitely not.
It's like the DTF print, which sometimes the colors are off,
Right.
But this one, it's like everything's embroidered, like a woven tag, printed on the sole.
Oh, yeah.
Like all that stuff. It's like really cool to have something like super official and legit. And then like on the box, it says like the production date. And it's like January 2023. So they made it like just in time
for the thing.
And like it's got all the logos of the entities involved, and it's got my 31 Days of Vans design on the box, but then also Pop Rocket, and then these other, like, Vans community, like Wearing Waffles, Clayton, and Under the Palms Bill, they sort of help coordinate this event to get it planned. It's funny, I did the Wearing Waffles logo for him too, so I have sort of 3 designs on the box. But
that's awesome, man.
But yeah, it's really cool just to have that experience, and I don't really know of many other like big name brands that would take the time to do that either.
I think it speaks a lot to them, the fact that they want to be like part of their fan base, and they want to reach out, they want to bring the community into it. That's something special. That's something that's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, to be involved in something like that, that's also like, it's a capitalistic thing, but it's also like they want to be a part of that community, and they enjoy being a part of it.
Well, and also like hopefully it means they're also open to criticism from that community, if it's warranted and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it seems like it.
And like wanting to hear like, hey, what do you want as a collector?
Like what collabs do you want to see, or what speaks to you? So
100%. Well, look, man, was there anything Vans night we didn't hit you wanted to hit?
Oh man, I'll have to think. I feel like we hit on a lot of things, probably mostly other things.
And that's the show.
But yeah, that's always good.
That's the show, dude.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, mostly I think it's just really cool that there's this like the thing I mentioned earlier. There's really very little gatekeeping involved. Like you'll go to like Hypebeast or High Snobiety or however you say that website, and just see like all these like negative comments from people. But when you get into, and it might be pretty positive in other collector communities, but like, being into Star Wars, there's a lot of toxicity in the Star Wars fandom. And I'm like, I don't really want to like dive too far into like being involved in things like that sometimes, just because you don't want to be surrounded by that negativity. The cool thing with like Vans is that like everybody's just like positive. Like there's nobody that's like, every now and then something will happen, but those people are like, leave the community. They're not part of the community. Like they need to go find somewhere else, I guess.
Right.
Just because people are like, no, we don't put up with that around here. Like there's been Facebook groups and stuff like that, and very little negativity ever happens. And I think that's part of the appeal for me, other than like, back in the day when there was that thrill of the hunt. Now it's more so like, oh, there's not as many like grail pairs anymore. If I were to see some old Made in USA vans, especially Vanosaurs, I'd be like, yeah, I gotta have those, But those are like so few and far between to come by, or like the sizing might be weird, or the condition might not be as good. So I'm just like, yeah, I'm happy with the ones I've got, and yeah, I just like that there's this community element, and you get to learn. Like I said, I've learned about other artists, learned about other bands. Just because like if there's a band collab, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll check out what this band. Usually I would know what it was because it'd be like a Warped Tour band,
Right.
But you might like
find something new once in a while.
dive further in. Like when the Bad Brains vans came out, they weren't really a Warped Tour van, but I was like, oh, Warped Tour band. But I was like, oh, I think that they had a new album coming out that year too, so it just worked well. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should definitely get the new album too, and remember to listen to more Bad Brains or something.
Well, final question for me: what do you want in the future? Like, is there something that is there like a holy grail pair of vans you want to acquire, or is there something you want to make? Like what's the future hold?
My dream pair would be Vanosaurs with a checkered background. Then you get the best of everything there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there was a movie, Rad the movie. Do you remember that?
The BMX movie?
Yeah. They had some vans that said Rad around the sole, and the Rad movie people were like, no, I don't want you guys using that logo anymore. So they severed their ties with Vans, which was a really dumb idea.
Weird.
I think,
yeah,
because that was like that movie was like fairly forgotten.
Well,
but they put out some Vans Vault Rads,
and honestly, there is like
Syndicate van.
There is like a bit of a Rad comeback now because of like the whole thing where, and this gets into like friends of the show, like Jamie, where he's into collecting like these weird like B movies and stuff.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a love for Vans of people that grew up in the 80s, or not Vans, but Rad. I remember like going to the video store renting Rad a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think there is nostalgia for that movie.
Yeah.
And what it is. And I think they're fools if they don't try to do that collab again.
Yeah. I forget what brand it was, but somebody else teamed up with Rad. Because I remember seeing like an ad on Instagram a year or two ago for it, and I'm like, these just don't look right, because it was like a bulky skate shoe.
Yeah.
I don't think it was DC. It was like another like something else below DC that's like not as like
Inties or something.
It might have been that. I forget what it was, but it just didn't have that same feel, because it didn't have the 80s vibes. It was more of like a 90s skate shoe look, or like a more modern skate shoe. So it just didn't feel right. Mm-hmm. And like the thing with the Vans, like the classic styles, those feel good through whatever decade, just because they've been a constant. So, but they definitely have that 80s appeal. They work really well with that. But yeah, so I was like, man, I want like checkered Vanosaurs with Rad. They could do different lettering, and it could still say Rad maybe. So I don't know.
I hope this dream becomes a reality.
I've been wanting to do a mock-up of this idea, so maybe I should do it soon.
Dude, go ahead and do the mock-up. 31 Days of Van, 2024.
Yeah.
I think this is going to happen.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be the release next year for everybody. Spoiler alert if you get to the end of this. Yeah.
Well, look, man, before we get out of here, go ahead and hit your plugs. Like, where can people find you out online? Where can they find your stuff at?
Yeah, so my wife and I have Pop Rocket Creations, and that's our sort of design and photography venture together. We make a lot of products, but we also work with different clients here and there. And that's been fun to have, and steadily growing, and just like really get to put our own influences into the style of that. So yeah, check out Pop Rocket Creations on Instagram or poprocketcreations.com. I'm on Instagram under I am Rocket Kyle, and that's where you'll see more of my Vans stuff. A lot of my Vans art is really one of the few things that like Melissa will like tell me what she thinks on it, but like that's more of my like passion project. Mm-hmm. So if there's anything, usually it's like Melissa and I working hand in hand on most things, but if there's anything really weird, that's usually like just me putting stuff out there, or like the band stuff. So yeah, Pop Rocket is like awesome having that like outlet where we can like, I think anything that looks good is because she'll be like, "You need to do this.
You need to pull back on
You
us a
need to
little
pull
bit.
back." She tells me like, "Rein it in, man. Rein it in. You're getting too out there. If something gets put out there and it looks really bad, it's because I didn't run it through."
All right. You heard it here first, listener. If it's fucked up and weird, it's Kyle.
It's just me.
if it sells, it's Melissa.
Yeah. If it looks good, then Melissa has been like, yeah, she's had a hand in it.
That's the secret sauce right there.
Yep.
Listener, you can find me on Instagram at Neil2No1. And thank you for listening to the show. If you got a friend sending Vans or collecting shoes, send them this episode. And then let people know there's over 100 episodes of various hobbies and collections. That's what the show's about. Every episode is evergreen, so you don't have to worry about like what year it came out or place and time. Everything's a one-off, so therefore everything is fresh and new. Kyle, man, thank you for doing the show.
You.
Totally
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Super
Had a lot
awesome.
of fun. Thank you. And listener, peace.